So welcome along to this chat with Ian Scott, who is a former Manchester City player. Some of you will have seen him play. I did on many occasions. Some of you might be too young because I'm getting on now, or you may not have watched as many of Ian's games as I did. So to begin with, perhaps you, Ian, can give us your summing up of your Manchester City career.
Well, good evening. Thanks for having me on. I joined City at obviously 16 as an apprentice, and we were the memories for us was we were the first year that had to go to college. We were the first YTS year had to go to college. So we used to go to college 1 day a week with the United boys. Well, you can imagine how seriously that was taken. But we had a good time. We had a laugh, and we got through everything. And then, you know, I played for the youth team, which was very successful at the time. Lancashire Youth Cup, the youth leagues, we would win on a sort of a regular basis. And eventually we got through to the FA Youth Cup final, which is, I think, what I'm best known for. That's probably for sure. From a book from Phil Gittenby. I'd have to mention him, else he'll never forgive me. So yeah, we spent 2 years as apprentices and had a great time with a great group of guys. Forever in the memory. Pinnacle was winning the FA Youth Cup against United at Main Road, and then from there we sort of transitioned into the first team, which was fantastic. You know, to be able to play for your local town club. 6 or 7 of us were in thereabouts, and I spent around about 3 years in and out of the first team. Couldn't probably quite get a foothold in there at the time. So yeah, they were good times. Forever in the memory. But didn't quite work out eventually.
You mentioned that you started at Blackpool. Were you a supporter of City, Blackpool, anybody when you were a little kid, or does that not happen at that stage?
You know, I was never what you would call the typical football fan. You know, you hear players who say they were on the terraces at 7 years old and they watched every game and this, that, and the other. And I was never the typical football fan. I never went to a game until I was older, you know, maybe 15 or 16 years old. Didn't mind City, didn't mind United. I had friends who were City fans, friends who were United fans. I just enjoyed playing. And I was usually the kid who maybe sat out first. So we'd go on the school fields and would play for 2 or 3 hours, and then we'd go and play something else. And you know, I remember my granddad always saying I was always the first one to sit down when I'd play with my granddad and my dad. You know, I just played what I played, and you know, I wasn't. And that's one of the things I always think about now is I don't think I may have made it these days, because I don't think I could have gone training 3 or 4 nights a week and put the commitment in that these kids do now. At 6 and 7 years old even. That would have been interesting whether I would have done that or not.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I was a big fan of yours. I know you know that. But when I was watching you playing in that youth team alongside Pail Lake and Andy Hinchcliffe and so many others, Ian Brightwell, I'm not going to list them all, Stevie Redmond, but all those players, I've got to be honest, at the time, I thought that lad Ian Scott is the most talented. He's the one who will go furthest. You had a range of passing, you had shots, you had, as far as I was concerned, everything. And yet other players moved on more. And I wonder now, when you look back on your career, I'm not saying you didn't have a career, but you didn't have Pail Lake's career, you didn't have David White's career, you didn't have Andy Hinchcliffe's career. Was that because of something in your head? Was that something to do with the not enjoying or not being capable of training, in which you've just hinted at? What was the reason that you never progressed, do you think, in the way that I believe you could and maybe should have done?
A couple of things, I think, and over the years I've done a lot of reflecting, and I think one of them was that I wasn't that die-hard, passionate person who you know. I played, and as you said, and I say it now to people, and don't want to sort of blow your own trumpet, but I could play. I could pass the ball on through an eye of a needle, you know, and this, that, left foot, right foot, it didn't matter. I could do all that. And I think maybe because it became so easy, it came easy to me that I didn't maybe put that extra effort in, whereas, you know, other players maybe go that little bit further. I'd like to think as well that I maybe missed my timing. You know, in the middle of 80s, I wasn't going to tackle anybody, really. You know, I'd work 100%, but I wasn't going to go and do a 50-50, what was, you know, it was vital in them days. And I sometimes look now and I think maybe now I could probably play a little bit, because no one's tackling anymore, really. And that probably would have suited me a little bit. But in the 80s, no. I remember going to Stoke City for one, and Lou Macari was there. And, you know, he just wanted you to run up and down all day long and tackle anything that moved. And I was never going to do that. And I remember calling, when I finished at Stoke City, I remember calling a couple of clubs, and one of them was John Beck, who was Preston manager at the time. And his first questions to me were, how tall are you and how fast are you? And I sort of like put the phone down. I thought, no, this isn't for me. Just scratching around these, because it just wasn't, you know, I was a ball player, and I was never going to be a tackler and a hustler and that kind of thing.
You were never going to be a John Beck player, that's for sure.
No.
When I look at somebody like Joey Barton, and I'm only singling him out because he came through City's youth team, and at the time he started to progress, I looked at him and I thought, not sure about Joey, but he came through sheer determination, yep, and got into the team. And I'm not saying he had a lack of ability. Of course he had ability. You can't possibly be a Premier League footballer without ability. But was he the other side of the coin of what you're just talking about? Somebody who, through sheer will and determination, dragged himself into a successful career, and when you had all the talent, but maybe you didn't have that drive. Is that what the difference is between you two as an example?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Since I've finished playing, I've got into the coach educating side of things and everything, and the mind is a huge part of the game now, and that's possibly one of the pieces I would say miss. It was just that maybe the determination is, whether that's the right word or not. It was just I just couldn't, you know, put my life on the line to make a tackle. That wasn't me, you know. And I think that was a difference where someone like Joey Barton would do. And so it was a safer bet to put somebody like him in there, rather at the time where, you know, now, like we just spoke about, they'd have that holding midfielder who would do that. And I would probably be one of the other ones who would play around him and wouldn't have to do the tackling and the hard work. But in them days, it wasn't like that. It was, you know, both midfield players had to do the donkey work, and you know, that was my fallback, if you like.
So thinking about your time at City then, and obviously your era would have been Main Road. What are your happiest memories at Main Road? We've got, as fans, memories of watching players. It might be a game you played in. It might be games you played in. It might be games of head tennis underneath the main stand with whoever. What are your happiest memories of Main Road? Have you got any little stories you can tell us?
I've probably forgot them all by now. Head tennis, you know, coming as a kid, and mornings in the gym playing the head tennis, you just mentioned it, was just absolutely brilliant. And we'd love it when Skip, Tony Buck and Glyn would come in and play with us, you know, because they were fantastic at it. They'd been doing it for years and years in that gym and knew every piece of the wall.
Were they good cop, bad cop, as everybody says?
Absolutely, yeah. Tony was the bad cop, and Glyn was obviously the good cop. But he worked perfectly. And, you know, years and years go by and still hold those values that Tony and Glyn gave us. And I think every player in that group would say the same thing, and players that have worked with them since and before us. And I instill that now, you know, with teams that I coach and things like that they've they've got to have the right mindset, and they've got to have the right attitude, and those kind. And they did that, and it was, you know, cleaning the toilets. You know, we had to clean the toilets and the floors and everything else that went on. Going up to the kit room to take the kit back, and Joyce was there. Another, God bless her soul, she just died recently, I think, Joyce, hadn't she? We used to have some fun times in the kit room with her, you know, with the laundry. We just had a ball. It was, you know, you're 16, 17 year old and you're a professional soccer player. Football, sorry. And yeah, it was just a ball. Life was a ball. And then obviously we won the cups and we won the leagues. We had a great team. We won the FA Cup, the FA Youth Cup. They were all great times. Playing in the first, you know, my debut was great.
Who were your mates in that at that time? Did you have particular mates? No,
just all of them. You know, we all went away to Spain together on holiday for a couple of years. You know, in the summers. So it was just a group of us. You know, Steve Redmond, Dave White, Brightwell, Hinchcliffe. You know, we just enjoyed, I think, being together. We were just, you know, lucky. We were very lucky that we came together when we did.
You can't admit this, by the way. Was there anybody you didn't really get on with? Was anybody that got on your nerves at that time?
No, I don't think so. Maybe, hey, I think we all got on each other's nerves at some point, you know, and there'd be the odd day where you'd be like, you know, but no, I think as an overall, we got on pretty well. Who
were the managers then that you had at your time at City?
We had Billy McNeil was I think was the main, Billy McNeil. And I remember as a young apprentice, sitting in the changing room where we used to sit, and Billy McNeil came in, and obviously we're like in awe that the manager's coming to and he was stood combing his hair in the mirror and just having a giggle, and, you know, with us. And I was just looking at him through the mirror, and he said to me, "What are you looking at?" You know, in a jokey way. And me, being the cocky young kid who didn't know any better at the time, said, "I don't know, but it's looking back." And so he made me clean the bathrooms for about a week. But you know, it was a jokey thing. But we just had a blast. You know,
sounds like you got on with him then, because Bernard Halford, obviously the former secretary who's sadly gone now, never got on with Billy McNeil, and it feels as if maybe he was one of the managers who, behind the scenes, wasn't as popular as some of the others. I know that's only Bernard, right, but you seem to get on really well with Billy, did you?
Yeah, he gave me my first chance, and I think it was Paul Power's testimonial. I say first chance, and I really remember this to the day and respect him totally for what he did. I think it was me and Paul Molden on the bench for Paul Power's testimonial, and I don't even know how old we were then. It was before we'd made any kind of debut or anything. We may have even been 16, 17. And I think we played Everton, and I think we got beat up pretty bad in the testimonial, and we never got on. And the next morning, he called me and Paul in and said, "Look, I apologise for not putting you on last night, but I didn't think it was the right time to put two young kids on, you know, in the circumstances." And you come away and you really appreciate that he took the time to tell us, because he didn't need to. I mean, sitting on the bench was good enough at 16, 17 years old, at a testimonial. But yeah, so I never saw anything like that. He seemed to be a decent guy from what I came across.
Obviously, the moment, as you've already mentioned, that probably stands out to City fans in your career, even though you played in the first team, yep, was that Youth Cup victory. Is that the moment for you? If somebody said to you, pick out your absolute key moment, was it that game against United, big crowd at Main Road, second leg? Was that the moment that stands out for you?
In that era, it was. Obviously, it was the pinnacle of definitely being an apprentice at City. I think for actual joy, I don't think it got any better than that. Maybe, the pinnacle for me was the Sheffield United. In fact, it was the pinnacle And the beginning of the end, funny enough, was the Sheffield United game at Main Road. And we actually lost 3-2, and I got man of the match for the first time. And thought, wow, you know, this is great, you know. And then the next Tuesday, I was ill, and Mel Machin decided to play the first team in the reserves to try a new system. So I said, well, I can't play, you know, I was ill. So that weekend, he played the same team that played in the reserves, and they won. No, I think they lost. And I thought, well, okay, then he's tried something. Hopefully I'll get back in the next game. And he played the same system again the next game, the same players, and they won. And I think they went on a little run of winning games. And basically after that, I never really got to look back in again. So the pinnacle was the Sheffield United game, but it was also the sort of the start of the decline, if you like.